Shalom family, I'm Brother Rael from Reunited Soul, and in this video I'm going to discuss the Moshaic Law regarding marriage and divorce. I will proceed with laws number 122 through number 138 in order from the widely accepted list from the 12th century scholar Maimonides. So let us nourish our soul with scripture that we may reunite with the Most High, the Elohim of Yisrael. All scriptures will be read verbatim from the King James Version Bible. Now let's get right into it. Welcome back to the Moshaic Law series, where we will cover the 613 laws or commandments found in Torah. Also going forward, I will refer to these laws or commandments as the law or 613 laws. Hopefully by now you have already seen the previous videos where I covered laws number 1 through number 121. And lastly, I will point out laws that are duplicate, repetitive, or merely religious traditions of Judaism. And that is when the scripture assigned does not support the law that is listed. So without further ado, let's get into the Law of Moshe regarding marriage and divorce. Law number 122, to marry a wife by means of ketubah and kiddushin. I will provide a little background for clarity. In Jewish tradition, a marriage is a two-step process. The first of this process is called the kiddushin, or commonly known as betrothed, meaning the engagement or to be engaged. During this process, the bride and groom are not permitted to live together as husband and wife until the second step of this marriage process is completed. The ketubah takes place during the kiddushin, or the first step. The ketubah is a contract that outlines the responsibilities to the bride that is accepted by the groom. Responsibilities such as providing food, shelter, and etc. It is signed and read aloud during the first part of the wedding ceremony. The ketubah then becomes the property of the bride for safekeeping. Now, as you may already know from the details provided, Law number 122 is Jewish tradition and is not supported by the scripture assigned. There are, however, two different scriptures assigned to Law number 122, depending on your source. I will provide both, starting with Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 13, and I read, "If any man take a wife and go into her, and hate her," then we have Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1, and I read, "When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement, and give it in her hand, and send her out of his house." As you can see, the assigned scriptures do not support the law because it clearly speaks of an adversity in a marriage that may lead to divorce, whereas the law itself is about the wedding ceremony. Therefore, law number 122 can be considered religious tradition instead of a commandment from the Most High. Law number 123, not to have relations with women not thus married. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 18, and I read, "Thou shalt not bring the hire of a whore or the price of a dog into the house of the Lord thy God for any vow, for even both these are abomination unto the Lord thy God." Again, here it seems the law and scriptures assigned are not really connected. The law itself is referring to an unmarried woman, while the scripture is referring to a whore. There also may be a bit of confusion with the phrase, the price of a dog, in this scripture. The Hebrew word for dog is kaleb, which can also be used to refer to a secular male prostitute. We must not forget that our biblical ancestors not only had to remove idolaters from the land promised, but were surrounded by idolatrous nations afterward. Sexual perversion and prostitution were and still are a common practice in idolatrous rituals, which is why sex scandals is a common occurrence in the history of the church. So putting Deuteronomy chapter 23 verse 18 into context, if the scripture begins by mentioning a female prostitute, then it should not be too difficult to understand the use of the word dog or kaleb is referring to a male prostitute. Law number 124, not to withhold food, clothing, and relations from your wife. We must understand in the times during our biblical ancestors, many marriages were arranged, meaning that the bride may not have had a say in the matter, meaning love may not have played a role in the marriage arrangement. So laws had to be set in place to hold the man and woman accountable for their roles as husband and wife. The scripture assigned to law number 124 is Exodus chapter 21 verse 10, and I read, "If he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage shall not be diminished." Law number 125, to have children with one's wife. The scripture assigned to this law is Genesis chapter 1 verse 28, and I read, "And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth." Law number 126, to issue a divorce by means of a get document. The get document in Jewish tradition is a document of divorce that the husband hands to the wife in the presence of witnesses. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 1, and I read, "When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it in her hand and send her out of his house." Now this same scripture was used for law number 122, which did not seem to fit. However, it does fit law number 126. Law number 127. A man must not remarry his wife after she has married someone else. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 4, and I read, "Her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that she is defiled, for that is abomination before the Lord, and thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Lord thy God giveth thee for an inheritance." Laws number 128 through number 130 have to do with Yivum and Chalitzah. Yivum is the obligation of the man to marry his brother's childless widow, in order that she may bear children in the bloodline of her late husband. Where Chalitzah, on the other hand, is invoked when the brother refuses to accommodate his brother's childless widow. And I will explain this process in a moment. Law number 128, to do Yivum. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5, and I read, If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. Now, it must be difficult for many, including myself, to understand the mindset of our biblical ancestors regarding marriage. How many wives today would be happy with sharing their husband with a sister-in-law? Or how many husbands today would be happy with taking on the responsibilities rearing children with their brother's widow? Law number 129, to do Chalitzah. As I said earlier, the husband's next of kin are obligated to his widow, and refusing to honor that obligation comes with consequences. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 9. However, for better clarity, I will begin at verse 7, and I read, And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders, and say, My husband's brother refuses to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel. He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother. Then the elders of his city shall call him, and speak unto him. And if he stand to it, and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, So shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house. Quite a shameful ceremony for brothers who opt out. This process of Chalitzah can actually be seen in the book of Ruth, chapter 4, where Ruth was widowed and sought to do Yivum with her late husband's kinsman. Now, although Boaz was willing to marry Ruth, he was not next in line according to Yivum. The kinsman who was next in line to marry Ruth chose to decline, thus bringing about the process of Chalitzah. Then afterwards, Boaz was able to marry Ruth. Again, you can read about this process in Ruth chapter 4. Moving along to law number 130. The widow must not remarry until the ties with her brother-in-law are removed. The scripture assigned to this law is Deuteronomy chapter 25, verse 5, and I read, If brethren dwell together, and one of them die, and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go in unto her, and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of an husband's brother unto her. Laws number 131 through number 135 pertains to the protection of women. Law number 131. The court must find one who seduces a maiden. The scripture assigned to this law is Exodus chapter 22, verses 15 through 16. And I read, "But if the owner thereof be with it, he shall not make it good. If it be an hired thing, it came for his hire. And if a man entice a maid that is not betrothed, and lie with her, he shall surely endow her to be his wife." Because women in the times of our biblical ancestors were always covered, protected, and cared for by men, they were not easy targets for men who prey upon women. Any male willing to take advantage of a woman or girl of any age would be held accountable by men much greater than himself. In other words, such a man is not going to make it his hobby to exploit women, simply because he was held accountable. Laws number 132 and number 133 shares the same assigned scripture. I will read both laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 132, the rapist must marry the maiden if she chooses. And law number 133, he is not allowed to divorce her. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 29. However, for better clarity, I will start with verse 28, and I read, "If a man find a damsel that is a virgin, which is not betrothed, and lay hold on her, and lie with her, and they be found, then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days." Now I read verse 28 because it is not just speaking about rape. If a man lay with a damsel for any reason, whether she consents or not, verse 29 applies. And he cannot have a symbolic marriage, then divorce her. No, not at all. She remains his wife for all his days. So law number 132, because it specifies only rape, is religious tradition and not a commandment from the Most High. While law number 133, he is not allowed to divorce her, is supported by the assigned scripture. Now, I know that our holy scriptures may appear to our modern minds to be insensitive to the lives of women, or that it seems that the female was nothing more than property of the father, which is eventually transferred over to the husband, as in the father receiving 50 shekels of silver from the perpetrator in verse 29. And I understand how this can anger not only most women, but men as well. But ponder this question before making a judgment. If the law of Moshe regarding marriage and divorce was enforced today, would there be significantly less crimes against women? Would there be significantly less predators seeking to victimize women? Would there be significantly less men seeking casual relations with women only to abandon them when the relationship is no longer convenient? Would there be less children raised in single-parent homes? If the law of Moshe regarding marriage and divorce was enforced today, would women find the world a safer place to live in? Whether we find it necessary or not, one thing we must acknowledge during the times of our biblical ancestors was that women, young girls, no matter what the age, was of a protected class. A protected class, brothers and sisters, unlike today, where the strong and independent woman is glamorized and promoted, where pretty much anything can happen to a woman and she must rely on an overwhelmed and biased criminal justice system to bring her justice. To look for her if she turns up missing because no man knew where she was going or who she was going to meet at the time of her disappearance. No longer does the father know at any given time where his daughter may be, or who she is with for that matter. And the same goes for many husbands. They have no idea where their wives may venture outside of her work schedule. Whether she goes to the store, the mall, or just meeting a friend. If she turns up missing or something was to happen to her, the husbands are no help to law enforcement in solving whatever crime was committed. Now again, we have two laws that share the same assigned scripture. I will read both laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 134. The slanderer must remain married to his wife. And law number 135, he must not divorce her. The scripture assigned to these two laws is Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 19. And I read, "And they shall immerse him in 100 shekels of silver, and give them unto the father of the damsel, because he hath brought up an evil name upon a virgin of Israel. And she shall be his wife, he may not put her away all his days." Now, if you start at verse 13 instead of verse 19, you will understand that the slander is in regard to the newly wedded husband questioning his wife's virginity, which is not only an insult to the wife's reputation, but an insult to the family that she came from. Such serious accusations will be investigated by the elders, in which they have ways of finding out. If the husband is proven wrong, he will pay the penalty and remain married to his wife. Laws number 136 through number 138 are laws regarding Sotah. For a little background, Sotah is performed when a husband suspects his wife of having relations with another man. The process of Sotah is explained in the book of Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 through 31, which, according to verse 17, requires a Levitical priest and the use of holy water, which means that laws number 136 through number 138 cannot be fulfilled at this time because currently there are no Levitical priests to perform Sotah, and without Levitical priests there can be no holy water. I will, however, proceed to read the laws in their proper order. Law number 136. To fulfill the laws of Sotah. The scripture assigned to this law is Numbers chapter 5, verse 30, and I read, "Or when the spirit of jealousy cometh upon him, and he be jealous over his wife, and shall set the woman before the Lord, and the priest shall execute upon her all this law." Lastly, laws number 137 and number 138 shares the same assigned scripture. I will read both laws, then the assigned scripture. Law number 137, not to put oil on her meal offering. Law number 138, not to put frankincense on her meal offering. The scripture assigned to this law is Numbers chapter 5, verses 15, and I read, "Then shall the man bring his wife unto the priest, and he shall bring her offering for her, the 10th part of an ephah of barley meal. He shall pour no oil upon it, nor put frankincense thereon, for it is an offering of jealousy. an offering of memorial, bringing iniquity to remembrance. Again, laws number 136 through number 138 cannot be fulfilled at this time because they require Levitical priests and the use of holy water. So there you have it, brothers and sisters. Laws number 122 through number 138 regarding marriage and divorce. In conclusion, some may argue why we are concerning ourselves with the 613 laws if some of them are obviously religious traditions. Please keep in mind that our main focus on the Law of Moshe in this series that I am covering is on the scriptures that are assigned to the 613 laws. In addition, many people today will in fact argue that some of the scriptures regarding marriage and divorce may appear to be quite archaic, unbalanced, or even misogynistic. Indeed, times have changed. Whether for better or worse may depend upon who you ask. However, please take this under serious consideration. The daughters of Zion, according to Scripture, are covered under the protection of the Most High and remain under the care of the men of Yisrael from the cradle to the grave. As daughters, the fathers are responsible for their care until marriage. As wives, the husbands are responsible for their care until his life expires. As widows, the husband's next of kin, depending upon her age and circumstances, are obligated to marry her, that she may bear children in the same bloodline as her late husband. And if the daughters of Zion assured that their male children were raised properly as strong men of Yisrael, those sons will make sure that she is cared for as well, if she does not remarry. Understand, brothers and sisters, that by design, the daughters of Zion are covered and protected their entire life. Entire life. This is in no way devaluing her, as if she's not able to take care of herself. No, not at all. This is because she is valued so highly. If you feel that the content of this discussion was useful and would like to provide moral support to this channel, please like, subscribe, share this video, or just say a few words of encouragement in the comment section. Your moral support is greatly appreciated. And whether you agree or disagree with the content of this discussion, feel free to express it in the comment section, where we can learn more from one another. I do monitor the comment section closely, so I do ask that you be respectful to everyone. With that being said, always keep your trust in the Most High. Love Him with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. See to it that your household is in line with the word of the Most High as best you can. I thank you for taking the time to watch. Again, I am Rael, your reunited soul brother. And with that, I say to you, Shalom.